So the other day, I, along with my friend Samant,
That's me.
stumbled upon this news article. The article, being part of a series labeled Health News-720, discusses genetically engineering humans.
According to this article, the author Rachel Massey believes that it is justifiable to allow our kids to be genetically altered in such ways that allow them to become smarter, taller, and any other desirable characteristic a parent would want.
She makes the allusion to having a genetic shop where parents have the ability to pick characteristics they want their kid to have, and then have the baby with said characteristics be born, predetermining how smart they will be, and other important characteristics that define an individual.
The problem with this is that while leading scientists may believe that genetics will change a person's characteristics, they have seemed to ignore the factor of the environment on the individual.
This argument that talks about the role of genetics on the success of an individual versus the role of the environment on their growth is called the nature versus nurture argument. In this presentation, we will be analyzing the effects of both nature and the environment on an individual, and then compare how they have an effect on the most evident case studies, primarily twin studies where monozygotal and dizygotal twins exist, each with different types of genetic dissimilarities.
We will take on the knowledge issue that has puzzled the world's leading scientists and psychologists for centuries. Does one's success through the attainment of knowledge and behavior performed to acquire such knowledge come from the nature of the individual or the environment they live in?
Through our research, we will show some strong factors supporting the role of genetics and the environment on an individual's intelligence, success, and growth. To begin this conversation, we must examine genetics. There's a strong evidence to suggest that one's ability to become intelligent and to attain more knowledge, or better simply put, their behavior as an individual, is driven by human genetics. By examining this aspect, we encounter a knowledge issue. To what extent does genetics play in the role in one's behavior? This is puzzling to most psychologists, as the functions of the human brain has slowly been revealed, but has still created a large enigma. By studying human psychology, especially biopsychology, we can see that the brain, the human being's most important organ of the body, is controlled by a conglomeration of many tiny brain cells called neurons. These neurons all produce certain types of neurotransmitters, which are tiny small chemical releases in the brain. There are about over 108 known neurotransmitters in the body, and each neurotransmitter has a unique property known to it that affects the brain's functions. For example, one such neurotransmitter, called dopamine, has the ability to cause pleasure in the human body. The combined mixture of these chemicals is thought to have determined our personalities and characteristics as human beings, and is thought to make us individualistic and make us all different as a society. One week we compare the differences and similarities between nature and its opposite counterpart, nurture, is through case studies involving adopted children versus biological children. Because adopted children are not genetically related to their foster parents, it can be reasoned that their actions, behavior, intelligence, and other characteristics that are important to them should not be directly related to their parents' behaviors and success. Biological children, however, do share the same genes as their parents who take care of them. Therefore, similarities should be noted between biological children and their respective parents who have reared them in their households. One study that investigates the genetic role of behavior between adopted children and biological children is a study conducted by Mednick. Mednick investigated the criminal records of people who have been adopted and those who have been not. He found out that when both adopted parents and biological parents had a clean non-criminal record, the percentage of individuals having a criminal record, their offspring of course, was only 13.7%. However, this increased to 14.7% when adopted parents were only criminal, thus suggesting a slight effect for the environment. However, when the individual's biological parents had a criminal record and their adopted parents did not, the conviction rate for those individuals rose significantly higher to 20%, and rose to 24.7% when both adopted and biological parents had a criminal record. That's over a 6% increase just from adopted parents rearing the children to biological parents rearing the children, which is a huge, significant increase to take note of. While the percentages do rise for criminal records of adopted parents only, there is observed a huge rise, about 6% increase, in criminal records for those individuals whose biological parents were criminals, thus suggesting a strong correlation to the actions of the individuals being tied to genetics. Off to you, Samant.
There's a large bank of evidence that suggests that a person's environment is the most significant factor in influencing them and their character. The environment consists of where the individual lives, who they live with, and how they are raised. The question at hand is whether a person raised in a supportive environment are bound to be successful, or whether their inner nature is more important in determining their success or failure in life. It is most likely that environment, rather than nature, is the defining factor in determining a person's behavior. For instance, one way in which this phenomenon is displayed is with the IQs of children based on the different environments they live in. The experiment performed had two groups, one being the control and one the variable group. The control group consists of children that lived with biological parents below the poverty line. The variable group consists of children who were initially living with biological parents below the poverty line, but were then adopted by people who had a better economic standing and assumed higher IQs. If the children's educational development was dependent on their genetics, then adoption, in other words, a change in environment, would not affect their IQs, as they would still have the same genes and therefore the same intelligence, both groups being from poor families. However, results proved that the children who were adopted ended up having IQs that were roughly 15 points above those of the children who remained with their poverty-stricken parents. Specifically, while the children who remained in poverty had an average IQ of 90, the children who were removed from poverty and adopted by more wealthy families ended up having IQs of around 115. This is proof that their environment did, in fact, affect their growth and educational development. Because they were raised in a better environment than the control group, the adopted kids, who should have had roughly the same IQ as the control group, had an increased knowledge and were able to develop more. Another example of the environmental effects on a person's growth and development would be the lack of proper food and proper nutrients. According to scientists Rischuti, S.A. Rose, Sigmund, and Whaley, severe malnutrition, either before birth or during the early years of life, can limit neurological development and have a long-term impact on cognitive development and intelligence. This research shows that mental development and capacity can't be thought of as being solely based on genetics and the individual's nature, but rather an individual's environment has an important part in their development.
Now that we've given a general description and discussion of the role of genetics versus the environment, we will analyze numerous case studies involving twins. Twin studies are widely used in evolutionary psychology as evidence of genetic determination and behavior. Identical twins share 100% of their DNA. They look similar and arise when one egg splits to give two eggs with the same DNA, hence the name monozygotic. Dizygotic twins, commonly known as fraternal twins, look less alike and may also be of different gender. They also develop in the same womb, and they arise from two separate eggs, and therefore share just 50% of their DNA, thus the name dizygotic. First, we'll talk about identical twins. Identical twins, even when reared apart, can have similarities in behavior, more so than fraternal twins. This is because their brains have the exact same genetic code, therefore making their brain processes, in theory, the same. This should result in similar interests and similar responses and actions in life. For example, let us examine the twin study between Jim Lewis and Jim Springer. Jim Lewis and Jim Springer are two identical twins that were separated at birth, reared apart in different locations, and raised individually by different foster parents. They, both not knowing that they had their twin counterpart in the world, found each other at about age 39. If we were to take the environmentalist approach here, we would logically conclude that the twins should be nothing alike. They both grew up in different environments, which is the result of having different parents, and therefore should be more keen to interests specific to the environments they grew up in, and hence have different lifestyles. However, the evidence from the case study turned out otherwise. Both Jims, other than looking alike, both had similar life careers and that they both became firemen. Other tests concluded they had similar intelligence and other characteristics keen to determine an individual. Now, by examining the evidence, we can see that genetics has had a significant role in the behavior in both Jim Lewis and Jim Springer. Due to the facts that both individuals have lived in separate environments and have still maintained large similarity in characteristics, it appears that genetics has played a large role in the human behavior in both these twins. The previous case with the Springers, both twins had followed the same life decisions, such as marrying, then divorcing, and marrying again. So we can suggest that the actions of one twin have an effect on the other. Likewise, let us examine a hypothetical situation where two identical twins are to make a decision whether or not to go to a dance. One twin decides to say that they will go. Now, the chances for the other twin to go to a dance is significantly higher now than choosing a random other person in the experiment to ask them if they were going to go to the dance or not. Why is this so? This is because identical twins share the same DNA and therefore have similar thought processes, thus attracting both of them to make the same decisions. We must take into consideration, however, the limitations of this case study. The fact that both Jim Lewis and Jim Stringer became firemen and married to each woman named Linda, both divorced, and both remarried to a woman named Betty, does not only sound strange, but may also be a coincidence rather than genetics playing a role in this situation. We also have to take into account this is only one case study. In order for the information to have more validity, numerous amounts of twin studies should be taken into consideration. Building upon that knowledge, no other twin study has had the exact same similarities in terms of lifestyle as both the Jim brothers did, thus offering a strong counter-argument against the role of genetics.
Also, the environment plays a huge factor in that there are cases that to be made that might provide evidence that genetics is not the sole factor of one's behavior. For example, because foster parents tend to give the same love and compassion to children, generally due to the fact that foster parents adopt in order to have a child they cannot have themselves, the environment for both Jims would have been very similar. They both would have received supportive, loving parents and would have been given a good environment to grow within. It must be noted that their similarity in intelligence need not have come from similar genetics, but instead could have come from the similar environments that they could have grown up in, both most likely having loving adoptive parents who wanted them to succeed in school. Additionally, their personal choices, such as marriage, may have been affected by the similar careers they chose, careers which they may have been inspired to pursue by their environments, specifically by their foster parents or the communities they grew up in. As for marrying women of the same name, it is not clear why this happened, but the assumption that they decided to marry their partners based on their partners' names is far-fetched and without substantial enough evidence to be used in the case for the effects of their genes. All in all, while there is considerable evidence stating that both Jim's life choices were determined by their genes, there are flaws in this argument as well that need to be accounted for before any definitive conclusion can be drawn.
Now we will look and compare monozygotal twins and dizygotal twins, otherwise known as identical against fraternal twins. There is an important knowledge issue to consider when analyzing both groups. Do all twins, regardless of monozygotal or dizygotal, do they experience similar behaviors? It is important to consider the difference between identical and fraternal twins for this knowledge issue. Identical twins are twins that share all their DNA, that is, their genetic code are exactly like from one another. Fraternal twins are twins that are both fertilized at the exact same time, but have a different genetic code, so therefore they do not share all the DNA as identical twins do. Fraternal twins, according to biology, are genetically like as a brother or sister is like to one another. Therefore, if we were to take the nature approach to this, we can hypothesize that fraternal twins should not have the same similarities in characteristics, behavior, and success. Also, because the twins will be examining, this aspect will not be separated, it can be assumed that the environments for both the twins will be similar. Because identical twins look alike, their environments will even be more similar, as they will be treated alike due to their similar appearances. Now we will conduct a small interview asking two pairs of twins, both fraternal twins, about their experiences and the similarities they have experienced in their lives.
So here we have,
I'm David Bremer.
I'm Sarah Bremer.
and these are the Bremer twins. So we're going to be asking you a couple questions, guys, just about our topic of nature versus nurture. So question number one. Do you guys feel you have a strong similarities with each other?
No.
No.
Just going to expand on that a little bit?
No.
No.
Alright, that's good enough. Question number two. Would you say you have the same interests or hobbies or activities at all?
No.
We both breed. That's about it.
Alright. Hold on, it's very nice. Would you say that there is something where you two have a different viewpoint in that one like?
There's nothing that we agree on
Like,
at all.
And what are some of the huge similarities?
I'm a guy.
The biggest stuff.
he's a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, Samant.
guys are probably also
Okay,
have
go,
seen it
Samant.
because iPhones.
Today we have with us here,
Molly Daly, Siobhan Daly.
and as we can see, they're the Daily Twins. So we're gonna ask you guys a couple questions here, just about your lives and stuff relating to our topic of nature versus nurture. Question number 1: do you feel that you have strong similarities with each other?
Yes.
Like similar tastes, everything?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Would you say that along with this, it's like the same interests, hobbies, activities?
For the most part, yeah.
Is there anything that you have a major different viewpoint in that one person likes and the other person can't stand?
No, I don't think so. Nope.
Any minor ones?
She likes pink. I do. I like pink. I like it less. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that works. And do you feel that you've kind of like had a different environment at all at home, or your parents treat you the same? Because I mean, if say that you were fraternal twins, you'd be treated. I mean, you are fraternal twins. Say you were like one of you was a boy and one was a girl. Your parents would treat you differently, or if one was older, one was younger, they'd kind of have different attitudes.
I don't know. She tends to get in trouble more often. Like she gets blamed for more things, even when I do half the stuff. So I don't know. It's just like the natural reaction is for them to blame her, but this is true. Yeah. About it otherwise.
All right, thank
Go. One example of a case study that examines the difference between identical twins against fraternal twins is an intelligence study performed by Nancy Segal that was conducted in Minnesota. Over 100 pairs of twins were brought in for study to test their intelligence levels. All sorts of twins were brought in to be testing, including monozygotal twins reared apart, monozygotal twins raised together, dizygotal twins reared apart, siblings reared apart, and unrelated individuals reared together. In the spectrum, the highest correlation of similarity of intelligence from the study turned out to be the monozygotal twins, identical twins, who were reared together, showing an astounding 0.86 correlation, where 1.00 is the maximum. Identical twins reared apart showed a slightly lower score, about 0.73, where fraternal twins, the dizygotal twins reared together, the fraternal twins had a score of 0.60. The difference between the monozygotal twins reared together and apart accounts for some environmental effects of the environment, but the higher correlation for the monozygotal twins compared to the dizygotal twins, 0.60, and the regular siblings, 0.54, shows the effects of genetics on intelligence.
The previous example mentions that the environment does have an effect in that separated twins have more differences in their thought processes than those that are kept together in the same household. This reflects the fact that the different households the twins resided in provided them with different knowledge and perspectives. However, while statistically it may seem that the deviation in the way the separated twins think is small, this difference in thought may have a major impact in their life choices and propel one to success, while the other may not be a successful individual. While the twins may share the same view on most topics, they may have diverging opinions on a topic of great importance. As opinions regarding schooling and careers matter more than taste in clothing, we are able to see how even differing opinions on a few critical issues would make all the difference in the twins' lifestyles, even though they have the same opinion on most subjects. The environment that the twins live in is essential to forming these important opinions on critical matters. Parents are able to provide their children with help in making positive decisions will give the twin living with them an advantage over the other less privileged twin, as their twin, with his or her slight difference in opinion from the other twin, will make sure to follow a better path in life. This is a clear impact caused by the environment and will even make a difference with separated monozygotal twins who are especially prone to having similar thinking. With dizygotal twins, influence by the environment is likely to be greater in developing diverging behaviors in the twins as they are less likely to think in the same manner to begin with. In any case, the environment that the twin is raised in will affect his or her decision-making process and ultimately his or her lifestyle, whether it be in a positive or negative manner. Now turn.
No, if you want. Well, after our presentation and analyzing all the facts, we can see that there is no clear answer to the effects of nature or nurture.
We've analyzed the effects of genetics on one's intelligence, divulged into the effects of the environment, and researched twin studies, a unique case where it may be evident to where nature or nurture has a predominant effect on the topic.
On that note, we would like to offer one final statement to answer our knowledge question presented in the beginning of the presentation. To answer that question, does one's success through the attainment of knowledge and behavior performed to acquire such knowledge come from the nature of the individual or the environment they live in?
We say that while genetics does have an important and key role in the acquisition of behavior and success, we cannot truly say that genetics is the only key to one's growth to attain knowledge as an individual.
Therefore, the concept of genetic engineering will never work as it was intended in the article presented by Chassis. Because the effects of the environment appear to have a factor to human characteristics such as intelligence, smarts, and the ability to gain knowledge, it is unlikely that all individuals would be the same had their genetic counterparts in those aspects been similar.
We hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and thanks for watching. This is S-Dog signing out.
Critzley's the best.